right. This morning when we looked over the show list, I said to you, Robin, the one I'm looking forward to the most is at 10:35.
Yes.
The interview I'm looking forward to the most. Charles Campesi is on the phone. He's the longest-serving chief of the New York Police Department's Internal Affairs Bureau, the world's largest police anti-corruption unit. He is a senior vice president at the private investigation firm Cyber Diligence. I hope I said that right. He's a lecturer, and he's got a book. It's called Blue on Blue, an insider's story of good cops catching bad cops. And it is my favorite segment of the morning because, as most of you who know me know, my dad was a New York City police officer. He died in 2008.
Yes.
It's been 9 years already, almost, huh? And he, on his headstone, he's got his shield. He loved the fact that he was a police officer. All of us are so proud to say our father. He had 5 children, so we're all proud to say our father was a New York City police officer. It's just a sense of pride. I'm sure you can all relate to it in one way or another. But anyway, yeah, on his don't call it a headstone. They call it a marker, a grave marker, right? Mm-hmm. Right there, it's got his shield. It's got his number on it. I can remember as a young guy, I'd go back to New York, and he wanted a decal for his car, for his van, that said New York Police Department. He wanted that decal. So I stopped a policeman on the street in the city, and I said to him, how do I get those decals? And he said to me, it's not going to help you park anywhere. I said, no, it's for my dad. He's retired. He's in Florida. Charles Campesi, I've been looking forward to talking to you. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Certainly my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Are you in New York right now?
Yes, I am.
It's snowing, isn't it?
I'm looking out the window, and it's snowing quite heavily right now. They say we may get a foot, so I would much rather be down where you are, but here's where I am today.
Are you still with the force, or have you retired?
No, I retired. I retired a few years ago.
Okay.
And that's when I started to write the book.
So I can remember watching on TV a movie, and I think Paul Newman was the actor, and he was on the rooftop of a building. With another police officer. They were acting police officer. And across the way, they're looking at the rooftop of another building, and they see a policeman throw somebody off the edge of the building. And my father said that rarely happens.
Rarely.
But rarely means it did happen, right? So
I'll tell you, that movie is Fort Apache to Bronx.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's the movie. So you even know that. And I think my dad might have been that might have been one of the precincts he worked in. I can't remember now. My brother Tom would know.
That was the 41st precinct, the 4-1 precinct in the Bronx.
Okay, and so I'm glad you even knew the scene. Was it Paul? Am I right about the actor, Paul Newman?
Yes, it was Paul Newman. You're correct.
Okay, so that right there told me, wow. Sometimes because we looked up to my dad, and we looked up to I lived on the South Shore of Long Island, and everybody on the block was either a firefighter or a policeman. It was the blue collar neighborhood, whatever you want to call it, and so we always looked up to those guys. But then when you find out that some of them weren't so good, it makes you wonder, right? Especially in today's world.
Yeah, it absolutely does. But to start off with, I'd like to say, and you're absolutely right about your dad and the others, that the overwhelming percentage of the New York City cops and police officers around the country,
sure,
in my experience, like 99.5%. Good, honest, hardworking men and women come to work every day, do a very difficult job, and do it well. It's that small percentage that was depicted in that movie that do something that's horrible, it's criminal, and steals the headlines away from the good cops.
And how do you, as a police officer, handle that corrupt police officer, I guess you would say? Is it differently than you would handle any other criminal?
Well, it's a different investigation because of the nature of the people you're investigating. Number one, police officers are smart, intelligent people, so we start off with that. They're very knowledgeable of police work. They understand the procedures. They understand the investigative techniques, so that makes it more difficult. So you have to be more imaginative, maybe a little inventive in investigating that very small number of corrupt and brutal and criminal cops.
So even though it's a very small percentage, because of your job, your position, you focused on it, so it looked bigger through the lens of your own eyes, right?
It did, and unfortunately, at times you're only seeing the bad part of policing, and you miss all the good stuff. So it's important to keep yourself and to keep your investigators focused that this is not representative of who we are. This is the aberration, and it's our job to remove that aberration from the department.
But the fact that there's even a department, I guess you would say, that focuses on the internal affairs, like your bureau, the Internal Affairs Bureau, that gives us something to feel good about. At least we know that if there are bad cops, there are good cops taking care of that problem too.
Well, it's a very important part of policing, and sometimes in some agencies it doesn't get the prominence it deserves. And I used to tell people we could have the greatest crime reduction in history, and New York City is going through some great crime reduction, some really good policing. A major scandal wipes that all away. The one bad cop, the two bad cops that do something horrific, and the public conscious is not the crime reduction, is not all the great work that we've done over the years. It's that cop, those cops, that did something horrific.
Yeah, I know.
And you could be credited for pioneering this program because you had a lot of things that you incorporated into it.
Yes, we did. And it's very kind of you to say that we pioneered it, but in fact, most internal affairs bureaus around the world, certainly in the country, are very reactive in their approach to internal affairs. They respond to citizens' complaints. If an incident occurs, they're very good investigators at that point. But that's not enough. And what we tried to pioneer is the proactive approach to internal investigations. And our thinking was, let's find the problem before it becomes tomorrow's headline.
What types of crimes were most common?
Well, unfortunately, drug dealing and the large amount of money that drug dealers have, and they have the ability to spend and to shell out that money. It's very tempting when you're dealing with large sums of money. But we've dealt with everything in the Internal Affairs Bureau, from excessive force. We had a case, and in my book I talk about a case of a police sergeant who was a murderer. He killed someone, and how difficult it was to conduct that investigation, which we eventually did, and we were able to arrest and convict him of murder. But we had everything. We had an officer, and again, there's another story in Blue on Blue, because what I tried to do is I tried to illustrate certain points by telling the stories of some real cases and showing how the case began, how it developed, how we were able to bring it to a successful conclusion. Now, unfortunately, in the book, most of the things that we brought to conclusion were the ones where people did bad things. But there were many, many cases where the officers did absolutely everything we could expect of them. And it just doesn't come through as well as highlighting the bad things and how do you prevent these. And it's good. Another department can look and emulate this and copy some of our methods.
Coming from a city that had Jeffrey Dahmer, that horrendous fellow, you also talk about the cannibal cop.
Yes, I do. We had an incident where an officer's wife saw that he was online looking at these horrible fetish websites where they talked about kidnapping young women, killing them, cooking them, and then eating them.
Oh, my God.
We were able to do a complete investigation, and we, from the beginning, thought that maybe this was a horrible fetish, and really the only crime that he committed was using police department computers to gather information. We worked with the U.S. Attorney's Office. We prosecuted him. He was eventually, at the end of the day, convicted of using those computers to get the information, but they weren't able to show that his actions were absolutely real.
Oh, good.
But, we had cases in New York, and I had a case with a guy I worked with in the FBI National Academy from Germany, where we had people who killed and cooked and consumed other people. So when we got that investigation, when we got the information, we took it very seriously, and we conducted as comprehensive an investigation as we could.
Wow. And in today's age, I mean, in the years that you were a police officer, the world changed because of technology changing. So did that affect the crimes at all? Did any of the crimes become, I guess you would call, high-tech crimes?
Yeah, we've had cases like that. See, in internal affairs, again, being trying to be innovative, we put together a computer crimes unit where we had some excellent investigators who were computer savvy, who understood the systems, and simple things like people trying to meet underage individuals online, or people using the computer to try to commit frauds. And we were able to investigate those crimes because, again, we were able to select some very talented investigators.
We have a story here in our town. It's a small town, but we had a police officer, a deputy, I think it was a deputy actually, who just yesterday was found not guilty of using excessive force. The case goes back about a year or a year and a couple of months, and surveillance video showed that the guy they were arresting, indeed, it looked like to the rest of us that excessive force was being used. But the problem is, and this is my take on it, there were 5 deputies. 4 of them said, okay, we'll take a plea deal, and they spent about a year in jail, I guess, right?
Yes.
And the 4th guy said, no, I'm not guilty of this. And so when you look at the video, you say, okay, he was there. Did you have many cases where officers were grouped into some, because that kind of crime right there, I want to hear your thoughts on that one, by the way, or that type of crime, because it seems like sometimes you're chasing somebody, the adrenaline is pumping up, and you get to the guy, and it's not exactly the same thing as hunting down a 16-year-old girl or online. Mm-hmm. It's a little different. You got the adrenaline pumping.
Well, sometimes that's a true factor where you're fighting with an individual, and I wish that people, when they were confronted by the police, would comply with the officer's direction and let the system work out. But people don't always do that. They want to fight. They think they can get away, and when the officers get involved, you need to use the amount of force that's necessary to bring the person under control. And that is law throughout the country. The problem comes when those extra hits come in, when the person has been subdued. And that's very difficult for a human being to do, to say, someone punches you 5 or 6 times and then puts their hands up and say, okay, I give up, you win. So it's easy to say, okay, put your hands behind your back, you're now under arrest. But it's also easy to throw that extra punch or two, that retaliatory punch. Those are the things that become problematic.
Well, do they drop the cases sometimes, and is that part of it? There was a story in the book in Brooklyn. Somebody got stabbed in the eye or something by an officer, and then he dropped the case? Am I remembering right, or was it? I read so many books. Wasn't that... Am I remembering?
There was a stabbing case, but that was in Manhattan, where the man stabbed another individual, and we chased him down into the subway, and he had the knife, and he was trapped.
Oh, wow.
And we pleaded with him to drop the knife, not wanting to use deadly force if we didn't have to. And we were very lucky in that we were able to convince him to drop the knife and surrender.
Did the book come as a result of the anti-law enforcement sentiment that we've been seeing the last year or two?
Well, I've been thinking about this book before I retired.
Uh-huh.
And what I wanted to do was I wanted to tell the insider story, because, again, you don't get to see what happens inside the Internal Affairs Bureau. Sort of like to lift the veil of secrecy, to take a peek behind that curtain, and to tell the story of what actually happened. The events that you're discussing, the anti-police, the war on police, that sometimes it's being termed as, that has developed over the last couple of years, and it may have been an impetus for me to finish the book as quickly as I could.
You say in some of your stories that Internal Affairs has had you go in undercover. How do you keep that unit separate from the regular policemen without them knowing who's in Internal Affairs or not?
Oh, that's a very good question. See, what we did is we had a group of undercover officers, some of which we drafted into the Internal Affairs Bureau very, very early into their career, so they weren't well known. And we had a wide variety of people with a wide variety of talents, and we put them in a location that was far from any police station, far from any police facility. They were in their own location. It was an office building in one of the boroughs. Was in Queens. We had an office building in Queens, and we kept them there away from the other offices as much as possible.
Oh, my gosh.
Charles, we have to take a little break, and we'll be right back. The book is called Blue on Blue, an insider's story of good cops catching bad cops. Charles Campesi is former chief NYPD Internal Affairs Bureau, and we'll continue our conversation on the other side of the break. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Thursday, cloud and a passing shower, giving way to some sun. It'll become increasingly windy and turn less humid this afternoon. Highs in the mid to upper 70s. And for Thursday night, moonlit and colder. Low 40 in a few inland spots, 51 on the coast. Friday will be mostly sunny. The high 68 to 72. Saturday, plenty of sunshine and a bit warmer. High 76 to 80. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Ocala Business Leaders Incorporated is a group of independent local firms providing a wide range of quality goods and services. Each firm strives to maintain the highest level of professional integrity and 100% customer satisfaction. When you're looking for goods and services, call a member of the Ocala Business Leaders, and we are confident you will be pleased with the results. If you are interested in becoming a member of the Ocala Business Leaders, join us at the Ocala Elks Lodge, 25th Avenue in Ocala, any Wednesday at 7 a.m. and enjoy a breakfast on us. For more information, check OcalaBusinessLeaders.com.
Bernie's Day of Fire.
The flyer says Bernie's Day of Fire Car Show and Dino Day, Saturday, February 11th from 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.
All proceeds will be donated to Habitat for Humanity.
Food trucks, trophies, door prizes, 50-50, pony rides.
I know. And look, Cow Chip Bingo.
Your favorite.
The address is 1 Aspen Road, Ocala.
And the website is Bernies.com, BURNYZZ.com.
Robin, you try the Echo machine.
Bernie's Day of Fire.
It has been said that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Well, same goes for the fair sex too. This year, let Cupid, aka Honey Baked Ham, help you and your sweetie celebrate. Make it easy and convenient. Choose ham, turkey, roast beef, salad, bread, desserts. Speaking of desserts, be sure to check out the cheesecake sampler. Everything is just perfect. So stop by Honey Baked Ham at 2709 Southwest 27th Avenue behind Best Buy or call 861-0011. That's 861-0011.
Millions of people have type 2 diabetes and many have trouble keeping their blood sugar under control. If you're one of them, learn about the Merck Type 2 Diabetes Study. This clinical research study is evaluating the safety and effectiveness of an investigational medication for type 2 diabetes. Those who qualify will receive the study medication, study-related medical examinations, and laboratory tests at no cost. To see if you're eligible, call Dr. Larry Popeil with Magnolia Research Group, 352-351-8088. That's 352-351-8088.
Want to win tickets to the Daytona 500? Of course you do, and WOCA has your chances to win. And we've made it super simple. Just tune in and listen for Larry to ask trivia questions to get your name registered. And for another even easier chance to win, just go to our Facebook page, like it, and then message us your name, email, and number, and you're registered to win the grand prize, a pair of tickets to this year's Daytona 500, plus second and third place prizes for tickets to the PowerShares Triple Q 300. So tune in, log in, and win from your friends here at WOCA, The Source.
All right, 7 minutes left in the interview that I've been looking forward to all morning. Charles Campesi is on the phone up in snowy New York. He's retired from the New York City Police Department. He's written a book called Blue on Blue, an insider's story on good cops catching bad cops. I want to ask you a question, Charles. When somebody is impersonating a police officer in order to commit a crime, to get access to somebody's home or business, pretending to be one of you guys, does that get to the internal affairs? Do you guys have to investigate that, or do you see right away that this wasn't real police officers?
Well, no, we do take that case, and the rationale for taking the case is we usually don't know if they're real police officers or not until the case is almost at conclusion. So we would take the case just in the event that it might be real police officers or real police officers involved with them. And we had a couple of cases where they were clearly impersonators, but they had a real police officer who was providing them with police paraphernalia, jackets and what looked like police shields.
Is that what happened in the Valentine's Day story that you have in the book?
Yeah, we had real police officers involved, and what we were hoping to do is when we do that investigation is to determine if they're real cops or not, or if real cops are maybe supporting them with information, giving them information on which houses are believed to be drug dealer houses and where they keeping their money or where they keeping their...
Wow.
And we find that, unfortunately, in some of those cases, they are real cops. And these are friends and family, so we kind of call it the familiar corruption, friends and family,
right,
where they supply information, support, intelligence to other people to commit the crimes while they're behind the scenes, but providing what is necessary to make it a real crime.
Do all of the police officers have to take personality tests every year?
Well, not every year, but there's a test that you have to take when you come in to the police department that we hope will weed out those who do not belong here. And unfortunately, people get by. I mean, it's just we had a class going into the academy of 1,000 officers. With 1,000 people, somebody had to get by. Somebody who's going to be problematic got through the testing process.
Can you talk a little bit about the aftermath after the arrests have been made, and now they're in the court situation? Does the court system treat them differently than they would another criminal?
No, they don't, but the prisons do. They have to put them into protective custody because the other prisoners really don't like to have police officers in there with them, especially police officers who are also criminals. So when they're placed in jail, they have to go into a segregated protective custody wing.
Wow. How many police officers are in that wing?
Good news is not many, but there are a couple in there, and it's in different.
Wow. I have a real quick kind of a semantics question, I guess. My dad hated the word cops. It seems like nowadays you guys are okay with the word. Did that culture change in the city?
Yes, it did. I mean, and your dad was absolutely right. It was a derogatory term for police officers when it first started. And it was a term that you would use not in a very colorful light, but I guess throughout the media and throughout television and radio, and a cop you're now a cop, and that's an old term. It goes back to the copper metal that was used, the roofing copper that was used in making the very first police shields back in 1845.
Oh, I never really knew that. Wow,
they used that roofing copper to make the shield, so they were called coppers, and then it just got shortened to cop.
Are police officers more afraid now of suspects having knives than guns since they're in very close proximity to them?
Always major concern dealing with people with weapons, and police officers have to be wary, and you have to rely on your training. We try to give people as much of real scenario training rather than the traditional. They put a paper target up and they would test your marksmanship. Now our training is more of shoot, don't shoot, realistic scenarios. And again, technology has helped us. There are computer-generated screens that change scenarios and gives you a real feel for a very stressful situation. And I think that training has helped reduce police-involved shootings a little bit.
Well, congratulations on writing this book. I mean, I don't know what you went through in order to get it published, but you have hit a home run. Are you going to write more?
Well, let's see if this one is successful, because there's plenty more stories up in my head that want to come out, so it's a matter of just sitting down and putting pen to paper again.
You've had good feedback from other police officers, correct?
Oh, yes, it's very positive because, again, we're showing that the majority of officers are dedicated people and that these small numbers are the ones that need to be taken out of the service.
Absolutely.
And plus you work well with the other emergency management teams like the firefighters.
Oh, we have to. It's a matter of everybody working together for the common good, so it's a matter of survival.
Yeah. Can I ask you a personal question? Where's home? Do you live in the city?
I live in New York City, yes.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I have a copy of Charles's book. It's called Blue on Blue. It's a nice hardcover book. You're going to love it. Call me if you want the copy that Charles sent to us. I will leave it for you at the front desk here. The rest of us have to go buy it, including myself, which I'll probably get the Kindle version, now that I have a Kindle. Blue on Blue. How do we get the book besides just go to the bookstores? Is that the best thing? It's Simon & Schuster. It's got to be everywhere.
Well, it's in all the bookstores, the normal places where you'd get a book, plus it's online. All you have to do is Google Blue on Blue, Charles Campesi, and it'll lead you to links that'll help you purchase it.
Charles, thank you for being on the show, and the bigger thank you is for what you've chosen to do with your life. I know the thanklessness of being a police officer through my dad. Thank you for doing that. It's
certainly my pleasure, and thank you for having me on your show.
You're welcome, and we will be right back.
Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. President Trump meeting with top airline executives at the White House.
We're going to be announcing something, I would say, over the next 2 or 3 weeks that will be phenomenal in terms of tax.
President Trump also criticizing the air traffic control system as out of date and saying the federal contract for a new system isn't good enough. More than 3,000 flights, meanwhile, across the country grounded by the massive storm hitting the Northeast.
Flights into and out of airports from Philadelphia to Boston are affected. That'll have a ripple effect on the rest of the country.